KYC isn't just a set of checks. It's a platform you'll evolve for years. In this topic, we'll design a vendor-agnostic KYC architecture that's decoupled, resilient, and policy-driven, so you can swap providers, meet regulations, and still ship fast. Most legacy eKYC stacks grow into a tangle of point-to-point integrations. Each client app flow hard codes calls to IDV, AML, and sanctions vendors. Every change means rewiring flows, duplicating logic, and recertifying with compliance. It doesn't scale, and it definitely doesn't regionalize well. An orchestrated KYC platform in the middle changes that. The client talks to a single facade, while the platform routes, retries, and aggregates results, and applies reusable policies for onboarding, refresh, remediation, and high-risk reviews. A robust KYC platform is easiest to reason about as 4 cleanly separated tiers. At the top, channels and APIs simply collect data and show outcomes. They act as almost dumb pipes. Next comes the orchestration layer, which owns the workflow, which checks to run, in what order, with what fallbacks. Below that sit verification engines and external vendors that actually perform ID, AML, and fraud checks. At the bottom, a decision and storage layer persists final KYC decisions and audit logs as the authoritative record. You can think of your KYC platform as having a brain and a set of muscles. The orchestrator is the brain. It owns the customer session, decides which checks to run, in what sequence, with what branching, retries, and aggregation of results. It's all about workflow and state. KYC engines are the muscles. Each one performs a narrow, specialized verification task, ideally in a stateless way. Keeping these concerns separate lets you scale, swap, and evolve engines without constantly rewriting orchestration logic. Now zoom in on the orchestrator as a state machine driving each request. In the pending state, it classifies the request and picks the correct flow for that region and product. When in progress, it calls the appropriate verification engines, sometimes in parallel, while tracking their individual states. During aggregation, it collects all responses, applies retries and timeouts, and normalizes results. Finally, in the decision state, it synthesizes everything into a single outcome: approve, reject, or escalate to manual review. A robust KYC platform is built from multiple specialized verification engines, not one giant service. Each engine focuses on a specific domain, exposes a clean, versioned API, and hides whatever vendor mix you're using behind it. ID, and address verification, answer. Who is this person and where do they live? Biometric and device intelligence engines focus on, is this the same trusted user right now? Sanctions and adverse media screening answer, should we do business with them at all? In regulated systems, the worst place to keep AML and KYC rules is buried deep inside application code. That makes every regulatory change a software release with long lead times, high risk, and almost no transparency into what rules are actually active. A better pattern is to externalize policy into a dedicated engine. Rules become data, not code. Compliance teams can version, test, and update policies through configuration, while applications simply call the engine for decisions and log inputs and outputs for audit. A strong KYC policy engine behaves like an input, rules blueprint machine. You feed it contextual signals like country, product, segment, residency, and a current risk score. The engine evaluates decision tables or a policy DSL that compliance teams can change without redeploying code. What comes back isn't a yes or no. It's a workflow blueprint, which checks to run, in what order, with which conditions and fallbacks. That's how you adapt flows per user and jurisdiction while keeping the underlying platform generic. Every KYC vendor speaks a different API language, custom fields, odd error codes, and proprietary risk scores. Your job is to hide that chaos behind a clean, canonical schema. An abstraction layer normalizes outcomes to simple states like pass, fail, or review, and emits vendor-agnostic flags such as document tampered or sanctions hit. You also standardize error categories, technical failures versus broken business rules. That single, consistent result format is what lets you route decisions, compare vendors, and satisfy regulators without rewriting your platform every time you swap providers. In a vendor-agnostic KYC platform, Routing is where you encode resilience and control, not vendor loyalty. Fallback is your safety net. If the primary vendor fails or times out, policy routes the same request to an alternate, so the user journey continues. Cascading applies when the first response is low confidence or inconclusive. You escalate to a stronger or more expensive provider. Dual running is for evaluation and migration. One vendor makes the live decision while another runs in shadow for comparison and tuning. Regional variation should be a configuration problem, not a new engineering project. Treat your KYC platform as a toolbox of capabilities: document scan, liveness, sanctions, PEP, beneficial owner checks, registry APIs, device risk, address verification, and so on. For each country and customer profile, policy selects a specific chain of these steps, and the orchestrator simply runs that blueprint. The same logical step can route to different vendors by region, so you adapt to regulation and data residency without cloning the architecture. Running KYC in production is really about how the platform behaves on a bad day. You need metrics that show, in near real time, which vendor is slow, which flow is failing, and how often fallbacks are triggered. You also need controls, feature flags, kill switches, circuit breakers, and rate limits so you can react to issues without a deploy. New rules and vendors should be exercised in a sandbox first. And finally, treat observability data as part of your audit story. Every decision and policy version should be cryptographically traceable. This blueprint pulls together everything we've discussed into one operating model. Client requests always hit the orchestrator first. It doesn't know regulations. It simply coordinates steps and records every decision into observability and audit storage. The policy engine holds your country, product, and risk rules, and returns a blueprint describing which checks to run. The abstraction layer hides vendor specifics, so you can swap or cascade specialized engines without touching flows. When you design around these seams, your KYC platform can evolve for years without constant rewrites.